Hi, this is Kavita, and welcome to episode 9 of our Unwired series. Today, we're going to talk about 3D experiences and how it's integrating very quickly into the customer marketing landscape.
How have 3D experiences moved the marketing landscape beyond static displays, creating truly immersive and personalized brand encounters?
Today, we're heading up to what I can say easily is the busiest time of the year for events and marketing opportunities. So, one of the things that you'll agree with me on is that brands no longer want to just be seen. They want to be felt, they want to be heard, and they want to be experienced. So, this is one of the things that has truly transformed the way we deliver marketing content. Many of you know we're almost on the GITEX season. It starts in about 2 weeks, and everybody is really trying their best, putting themselves out there to make sure their customers remember them when they attend these expos. So, in my view, 3D experiences or content that's going to give people very immersive encounters with brands are going to be very important. So, this is one of the ways it really transforms things because you're not seeing it in a one dimensional format. You're able to play with it, you're able to learn from it, and you're also able to give and get feedback, which is the main thing. And it helps you create content that looks far more interesting than what you've ever been doing. So it's an unprecedented opportunity, really, if you take the time to try to tell your story using immersive tools.
Do you think 3D experiences are transforming passive audiences into active participants, reshaping how brands connect and leave a lasting impact on their clients?
Absolutely. And I think this is the cornerstone of any of these kind of experiences where you're able to take your audience or your customer from being more in a passive mode to a very active mode, which means you can engage them using multiple tools. Either it could be interaction because you're trying to tell a story, so you build layers for them to walk through that journey with you and learn something. Or maybe you want to offer them a gamified experience where there's sort of a challenge that they overcome, and at the end of it, there's a reward or a gratification that they could benefit from. The other very interesting way is you can actually have very sensory elements. So you could have interactions that are olfactory in nature, which means you could smell things. The other thing could be you could feel things. So you could have motion, you could have visual elements that react not only to the person, but also react to the way the person is interacting with their experiences. So it's much like how you would enjoy maybe playing a game with different challenge levels. You can actually excite your customer and also try and win them over by trying to make this experience something that they engage with. And when you get their attention and you're able to hold that for, let's say, the period, whether it's for a few minutes or for a few seconds, you're sure they're really going to remember what they interacted with. So I think that's a very, very, very big benefit.
How do 3D experiences contribute to the effectiveness of virtual events and online marketing strategies?
I'd like to think about online experiences as something that can deliver a very controlled and manageable experience to your client. Now, I don't want to tie this into just being event related. It could be anything that you do online and you own a space and you sort of invite the customer. Now, one thing you need to remember is compared to, let's say, a physical event where the customer could have just walked in by chance, or he's really not invested in your product, but he landed up being there and interacted with your experience. However, when you look at the online space, I would say at level one, if someone is actually in your space and exploring, very, very rarely have they just got there by accident. They're actually perhaps more invested that they're spending time exploring your solution. So one thing you have as an advantage when it comes to online experiences is that the person can allow themselves to spend as much time as needed without really being approached or having to talk to anybody, which means you're able to really judge their interest level by the amount of time they spend. You could also layer multiple call to actions. So what you're really trying to do is you're able to take your investment and spread it over, let's say, a larger footprint or an area. So remember, when you build something online, your budgets can also be far more controlled because it's an online space, it's a defined area, and you're able to play with a lot more digital tools. Perhaps you may not be able to integrate, for instance, a sense of touch or smell as you would when it's a physical event. But I think here audio can be a very interesting thing. Visual elements can still be interesting. And when you sort of offer any incentive or call to action, it can be fairly instant. You're able to capture leads and performance metrics a lot faster. So this is something that you should remember, that it can be a very, very interesting tool if you plan and do it right.
Can you walk us through how immersive 3D environments influence customer behavior and decision making?
Sure. I've actually had the experience of having worked on multiple types of immersive experiences. So let me show you or talk with you about some examples. One of the things that I remember being very involved in building was a room, an immersive room that a customer walks into, and he sort of feels or listens to the whole brand story by being immersed in this beautiful screen that surrounds him. So that's a very different kind of experience where he experiences a sense of elevation. There's a sense of being awed and a very strong visual sense. There are instances where, for example, you might put your customer through a very virtual reality oriented experience where he's wearing a headset, maybe he's playing a game. Now, in that space, you're kind of getting the customer to interact with your brand in a very trusted way because he's able to sort of be cut away from the rest of the world and put on these glasses and sort of interact with your experience without really being distracted. So that takes a lot of trust. It takes, in a sense, presence of mind for him to dedicate that kind of time and also interact with your solution. So you need to definitely make it interesting. So these are the ways I think today we can take the concept of 3D and build different types of delivery mechanisms. So it need not only be online, it could be 360 via sound, visual, it could be 360 because you're being immersed in a space by wearing a gadget. Or, for example, you could even offer, I've come across very interesting installations where people are able to smell things and then get transported or taken into a world where they're able to remember or recollect something. Also remember, when you're able to allow people to try things, for example, a very good thing would be, try makeup via app. So you're able to see the makeup on your face. It's sort of, I wouldn't call it 3D, but it is immersive in a sense. So you can see a new hairstyle on yourself, or you could see a new lip color or makeup. It suddenly makes you feel like a different person, and that makes you also want to buy the product, right? So you get invested in the solution or product without realizing it. And I'm sure conversions are much, much higher if you've actually allowed a customer to interact. When it comes to technology products, it's slightly different. So you need to think of ways how you're going to make a solution more fun. And one of the best ways to do it is to really take the challenge area and gamify it and allow them to feel a sense of achievement and challenge in that gamification or 3D experience. So we're going back really to the ultimate problem of challenge and solution, which then the customer is subconsciously able to connect to. So that's one of the ways that I would really suggest.
What practical steps can brands take to design 3D experiences that not only wow visually, but also deliver measurable engagement and ROI?
I'd like to look at this question as sort of a wrap up to what we've talked about today. So I want to keep it really short. The answer is very simple. First of all, you need to think about your solution and what competitive edge or advantage you're trying to put out there. Another point is you need to have an original idea. So let it look good, thought through and something creative. The other thing is you need to make sure that you have good technology integration. Don't make it weak. Invest in the right tools. Make sure it's an experience that people want to look at. Don't go cheap on these things. And finally, you need to do your research to see, is this something that the customer would like? What is the audience profile? What is their age group? And what are you going to make them go through in this experience? For example, if you're trying to promote a fitness product, for instance, you may actually have a customer that might not be in the fittest state of health to go through your experience. And in that case, you need to think about these things. So you don't want an unfit person to be asked to jump really high or do something similar. I don't want to be that dramatic, but I think you understand really what I mean here. So it needs to be thought through in terms of, will the customer actually enjoy the experience? And can I have as many customers take the experience, irrespective of their state of mind, state of health, the way they're dressed? So you need to think about these things. Don't have experiences that are very one-sided. Don't build experiences that expect people to be only a certain way. Experience is something that should be open to many people so that you have various interpretations and interactions, and people experience your brand in multiple ways.